Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order, Last Days of Europe, with me, Empire Omega, and Empire of Japan. So while we are working on the domestic bliss, getting better and better and growing the economy with each step, we have entered into talks with the United States to return the treaty ports in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Yep. And they have given us the first part, but now they are really pushing at us. So we're going to see what's going to happen with discussing the oil clause. I'm kind of interested in seeing, what will be the next step. We do have a ton of political power, so it's not like we are sort of pressed on this. I'll burn a little bit on the propaganda campaign though, because I want to get this one as high as possible. And we got more. Nice, our economy is growing really rapidly. We got more options here in the production units. A stroke of misfortune. What? Okay, well that's not good. A complete success. The negotiations worked. The trade deal between the United States and the Empire of Japan is being finalized after days of proposal and communications. It seems like both parties are getting the resources they really need. The United States will have its ports in San Francisco and Los Angeles returned without conflict, and the Empire of Japan will be given an oil grant that will help to solve the widespread shortage throughout the sphere. The President and Prime Minister of the United States of Japan, respectively, shook hands on the deal just moments ago. No matter what both parties hope that these negotiations will better relations between the two global superpowers. Workers both in California and the Japanese home islands rejoiced as the nations announced the completion of the deal. Though the trade deal was completed, the diplomats of the United States and Japan still have work to do. Talks are supposed to carry on into the next few days, but one thing is for sure, that it will be a peaceful end to these important negotiations. Approaching the table. Okay, so the power pool is still 100. And a stroke of misfortune. The evening were quiet in the Hatoyama household. His sons and daughters had left their home a long time ago, leaving him and his wife to spend the twilight years of their life together. Kaoru was in the kitchen preparing tonight's dinner. Hatoyama could hear the banging of pots and the thud of knives on cutting boards and the rising sizzle of boiling water. Probably some soup tonight. On other evenings he would have gallivanted to the kitchen to see what the fuss was all about. However, a crucial matter was at hand. Prime Minister Ikeda was calling. Hatoyama Ichiro. If we read the description, Hatoyama Ichiro is an old man with even older ideas. With connections to the nobility and an old wizened figure, he is the definition of a conservative. He knows every dirty trick, every historic betrayal, and every political figure because he's lived through it all. Serving the Diet since 1915. Jesus, that's 57 years ago. This will likely be his last term, and both he and Ikeda know it. With his help, Ikeda can keep the ship of a state stable for long enough that he can finally leave the bitter world of politics and enjoy his long overdue retirement in peace. Hatoyama, the Prime Minister said. Hatoyama, I'm talking to you. Are you alright? The past few weeks Hatoyama had been far from alright. He was far past his prime, and even walking has become a struggle. His panting echoed weakly on the walls of his study. I am fine, Prime Minister. Go on. He could not tell Ikeda what was going on. Hatoyama would rather resign than cause the Prime Minister concern. No, you're not. Stern, sharp words echoed across the telephone. We have been talking for half an hour. yet we have not even scratched the surface of anything. Hatoyama, earnest, pleading. If you're not well, please do not hesitate to tell me. Hatoyama's chest thumped in pain, his blood screeching to a halt. Do you need to pass water? Yes, I am sorry. It's all right. Call me back when you're done. Hatoyama made for his door. He never reached it. And so passes a great statesman of the age. Okay, well, that came in a wrong moment. In the worst possible moment. Now, the Zaibatsus will give us 75 political power, and we can get an effective civil service here with 50. So, approaching the table, one of the biggest obstacles faced by our traders and industries is our lack of access to markets in North and South America. This is caused by our embargo. By the USA. Wait, what? This is caused by the embargo of the USA, right? And the prospect of lifting this embargo is the biggest economic price up for negotiation. Our negotiators are asking us to lay out our position to start the talks. Firstly, we could ask simply for the embargo to be lifted. This would ensure us the most important prize, market access, and allow us to quickly move on to other parts of the treaty. Many in our cabinet, however, believe that a mutual lift favors the Americans too much, and we are pushing to attach trade conditions to the deal. These conditions would provide for mutual reduction of several tariffs in an area beneficial to Japan, ensuring us more favorable trade terms, but might not go down well with the Americans. Further, there are some who think we are offering a deal too cheaply, inviting further bullying attempts by the Americans in the future. This outspoken group demands we attach a hefty price tag to the transfer of the treaty ports and makes this a condition to resume trade. Most others fear tying these issues together could jeopardize finding an agreement on either one. So lifting the embargo is our objective. Oh snap, we had this running. Perhaps a trade agreement shall soothe the tension. They will pass for the ports or there will be no trade. Let's go with this one. Japan is currently in the lead. The backwaters of power. I assure you, Prime Minister Ikeda said to the gathering of senior army and navy figures, that we shall not compromise the national defense state for the sake of simply improving the economy. On the contrary, my government plans to increase the budget allocated for the military, an increase of... Behind the Prime Minister stood two men, the pillars of Ikeda government, Ichiro Hatoyama and Ezaki Masumi. Well, Hatoyama no longer is there. Sato was elsewhere, attending to the matter of relations with the Zaibatsu. Hatoyama coughed, breaking the monopoly that Ikeda had upon the assembled officers. At the Prime Minister's nod, Masumi led the Deputy Prime Minister backstage. "Are you okay?" Masumi said, offering a bottle of water. "That was some severe coughing back there." Hatoyama took it with a relish, but also fatigue. Unscrewing the cap, he drank deeply, enthusiastically. It almost bothered Masumi. "Hatoyama, you should get that checked. Not to be insensitive, but you are old." Hatoyama's bleary, bedraggled eyes turned to Masumi, who seemed to recoil from their stare. "I'm fine. The Prime Minister still needs me, and I shall not rest before he releases me from his service. That's dedication and all, but you would be no use to him dead." Silence. They sat in awkward silence until they heard the doorknob open and whinnied open. "Hatoyama, Masumi, tonight was a success." Shaking the Prime Minister's hand, Masumi stayed quiet. It was not his business to divulge. Okay, so we can go with this one next. But I think we'll jump to the political power first. The Zaibatsus are happy. The funds we have invested in the private sector in the course of our reconstruction have not gone unnoticed. The Zaibatsu are grateful for our help in keeping them afloat through the recession. Their gratitude will no doubt pay large dividends in the future. So we get increased faction power, liquid reserve, which we will use to pay the debt, political power, and national harmony will improve. And it would really do us well to get this political power pool. That would be great. Bill passes the diet. An amazing feat. Okay, 5.13. Oh, now down to 4.94. Calming the Guangdong riots. Yeah, but we're increasing the distance between us and Germany. Very nice. And the sphere is also increasing its grasp on the world. Calming the Guangdong riots. In yet another sign of a return to relative calm after destruction brought by the oil crisis, the Guangdong riots, brought about due to the mass societal anger and living in a segregated system, have at last calmed down. Tense negotiations with the government and a harsh crackdown have recently yielded calm on the streets of Guangzhou and other major cities within the corporatocratic state. The chief executive have recently made a communique indicating total success and a vow to return to business one way or another. Tokyo has indicated its congratulations. From Nanjing, on the other hand, there is no comment. A second attempt. Our offer to resume trade in exchange for concessions on tariffs has been declined by the American representative. He stated that a resumption of trade should be considered an opportunity to rebuild links between our countries, not to exact petty conditions, and that it will happen mutually and without conditions or not at all. Well, it seems on the surface we have the choice between a concession-free deal or no deal at all. Some of our advisors are convinced the Americans are bluffing, and that we can get both the trade resumption and the conditions we want if we call their bluff. How should we proceed? We can't risk losing the deal. They're bluffing. That might be the wrong choice, but I'm not gonna give up. They have as much to lose as we do. And I mean, they're the ones that want the ports back. Okay, can I get a small military? Not quite yet. Okay. It appears that embargoes between Japan and the USA will continue for the time being, as the news filtering out from their ongoing summit paint a grim picture of the prospect for a mutual resumption of trade. Representatives from both countries are admitting that the sides are too far apart on the issue for an agreement to take place, and the talks have moved on to other subjects. On both sides of the Pacific, the great hopes placed on the economic benefits of an agreement have been dashed, and businesses are scrambling to reduce stock and cancel orders made in anticipation of the deal. It would seem the world is now closer to a falling in rations. Okay. That's not great. But what can we do? Pulse power amplification. Iberian Cascade. Yeah. Okay, so the Iberian conflict is done. The colloquially named Iberian Wars have come to an end. Regardless of the victorious faction, Japan should begin making diplomatic moves to accommodate for the new order that will wash over the peninsula. Tokumo Sokan considers Iberia to be of a great strategic importance and will prepare the necessary funds and resources to plant agents in the country to make sure we can have intel on what they're planning. Okay, well, we won the second round. I don't really feel that much happier about it. The American delegation has opened talks on the third and last clause by expanding the scope of the negotiation. In addition to the original subject, the transfer of the treaty ports back to US control, they are also calling for demilitarization of Hawaii. They justify this brazen demand by stating that the purpose of the clause is to secure peace and future relations, and that this objective demands a neutral East Pacific, as the Hawaiian missile crisis have shown. We are well within our bounds to refuse this. We never agreed to discuss the status of Hawaii and are under no obligation to. Some of our delegations are calling for us to punish the Americans for their brash behavior by attaching conditions, including demilitarization, to the ports instead. Others see the demand as a bluff, the Americans trying to shore up their position for the negotiation, and suggest we offer up a bargain. We will demilitarize Hawaii as they ask if they will agree to remit the returned ports to civilian purpose as well. FE advisors are cautioning against seeing this proposal as a negotiation tactic. This is the clause that is the most important to the Americans, and they will be very well willing to stake their entire accords on getting a favorable outcome here. What will we do? We will accept their demand. We will punish them. We will offer them a bargain. Well, let's offer them a bargain then. Falangist victory in Spain. The sound of gunfire and explosions has finally become silent as the Phalange, a fascist grouping of hard-right dissidents, have appeared triumphant in the Iberian Wars. The victors of this strife are among the most hearted and ideologically fanatical to come out of the conflict. Now they are untethered by any form of leash placed upon them during the reign of Franco and are ready to unleash the dogmatic dreams of their long-dead founder, José Antonio Primo de Rivera. Addressing a mass of blue shirts, Falangist Jefe Jaime Milans de Bosch spoke on his plans to shape Spain in a truly Falangist image. What this means to those who are left out of the Falangist utopia is unlikely to be anything good, as reports of extrajudicial executions have started to emerge. Whilst the war may be over, Spain is unlikely to rest easy under El Jefe's reign. We tried. It's not like we haven't tried. Apply battlefield lessons. We can go with military austerity a little bit here, which significantly reduces the yearly deficit, which I'm happy with, because our economy is growing, so is the debt. So let's see what's gonna happen now that we jump into May. 346.8. Yeah, we're definitely increasing the difference. The Americans have finished considering our general's proposal for port transfer and demilitarization. Our condition for accepting their demand for demilitarization of Hawaii, that they demilitarize the ports in return, has been declined. For any deal to be signed, they say, it must mean the end of Japan dictating matters on US soil, and a demilitarization in California would stand in the way of that aim. Okay, but they can dictate to us. The demands are outrageous, far exceeding the scope of what was agreed upon in the lead-up to the summit, and very few would fault us for declining. They want both the treaty ports and a demilitarized Hawaii, and they're staking everything else on this summit to get both. Are we willing to do the same? There's too much at stake, except we can't allow this. No deal. Well, this really sucks, because we tried to push for the deal. I tried to offer them quite a few things, and it just wasn't enough. So, and there's no economic treaty either, but we will get the oil, and we will get the peace. So it's a question, do we want the oil? I'm pretty sure that's gonna boost our economy quite significantly. There's too much at stake, except I don't want to. We need to start getting better relations here. So some treaty is better than no treaty, and we've already pushed. Well, I mean, they're pushing us crazy hard. But the oil is going to be worth it. That should be a huge boost to our economy. I'm doing it for you, world. I'm doing it for you. $193. I truly do wonder what the effect is gonna be. I hope the game is not gonna screw me over by some nonsense. Nothing's happening in the world either, that's interesting. Goodbye, San Francisco, the end of an era. For the past 20 or so years, the passage of Japanese vessels from the treaty ports out to sea have taken on an almost ritualistic regularity. Upon finishing inventory and final inspection, sailors have been ordered to stay in their bunks during transit. For the first short leg of its journey back to friendlier waters, each and every Japanese ship has been sneered farewell by jeers, threats, and obscene gestures from a hostile city. Today, as the last Japanese cruiser finally left the port of San Francisco, this ritual was broken. The jubilant crowds, freshly arrived from the port parties all over the city, waved and cheered our sailors a final goodbye. The captain of Chikuma called for all hands on deck to witness the event, and soon our sailors were cheering and waving back. Pictures of the exchange are making the rounds on television on both sides of the Pacific, a sure sign to our people that an era of heightened hostility is coming to a close. Not everyone is equal and enthused, of course. Many in our own country are grumbling about how much ground we are giving to the Americans. We can only hope that the economic benefit of the Accords will change their minds as they start trickling out to the population. To the sailors on Chikuma, and to many watching at home, it feels like the start of something new. US-Japanese treaty signed. A joint announcement today has confirmed the rumors trickling out from the ongoing US-Japanese summit in the East Pacific. After several long weeks of negotiations, the countries have found enough common ground to support a comprehensive treaty. Japan has secured access to their highly desired American petroleum, and the USA has secured the return of their treaty ports. The treaty also marks an end to the trade embargo between both countries and their respective alliances. The news has been greeted with celebration in most of the United States, where everyday life has been put on hold as neighborhoods hold port parties in the streets. In Japan, the reception has been more muted, but the great outrage at having a timidly surrendered territory vowed with threatened from nationalist quarters has thus failed to materialize. The winds of change. Our beneficiaries. Jiro Ono's hands moved like machines, cutting the fish and shaping the pickled rice of sushi smoothly, one action falling into one another. Tonight, the guests at his Ginza restaurant were exceptional, and he tried to maintain a semblance of manners. Across from him, in the sushi bar of Sukiyabashi Ono, seated the Prime Minister of Japan, alongside an entourage of executives drawn from the highest tiers of Zaibatsu. The low dimming light, he should have had it fixed a few days ago, did not diminish the prestige they carried. When the Prime Minister asked for sake, he poured it to the osake cups. When he ordered the halibut, halibut it was. If salmon, salmon. The Prime Minister cracked jokes and laughed, and Ono laughed alongside him. A man after his own heart, looking for the good of Japan. He could hear snippets of conversation. "Thank you for being here tonight," Prime Minister Ikeda said. "It has been an honor managing the country with you." The thump on Ono's knife on his board cut it short. No, one of the executives said. "We should thank you, Ikeda, for our prosperity." The same executive raised his sake cup to the air, inviting all the participants there to raise theirs as well. Ono worked behind the bar, observing the proceedings with earnest interest. For lasting prosperity, for Japan, they toasted and began ordering food again. Ono was lucky tonight. Perhaps the Prime Minister would consider recommending the restaurant to the other diet politicians. In any case, the entourage lavished him with praise. Good food and exceptional service. Ono bowed deeply, for it was a great honor. Okay, give them more money. Let's go with Foster MIC Corporation. Now that the economy is recovering, we can start to restore the MIC to its former productivity. As always, this will not be a project of the military alone. The Army, the Navy, the Zaibatsu, and the state will work together to provide everything that is necessary for national defense. So we get an extra production unit, military professionalism improves, we get maximum factory efficiency cap plus 5%, division training time lowered, and increases our GDP by 1.7 billion, thus making us even stronger when compared to Germany. I look forward to that. Okay, the accords are still in play. So it's gonna give us army experience. And let's burn a little bit of political power. Urban, port, ruler, and consolidate. And these ones we're gonna wait for. Expanding the power grid. And we need to make sure we have enough in here before we do anything. Yeah, 15 more days. The death of Perón. The Americans won Hawaii. What the? Surrounded by the quietude of his office, Prime Minister Ikeda Masanosuke comported himself to the picturesque samurai of old. Calm, reserved, stoic. Restraint was his shield against missteps, an ever-present risk for those burning a nation's weight from the mountain tops. Those peers of his who saw only the summit on which he stood would cheer his fall, if not engineered such a tragic occurrence themselves. Hence His Majesty's loyal servant treated his adversaries as an old boulder treats the moss which grows lush between its cracks. He glanced at the foreign minister's letter, laid with neither crease nor tear on his desk. The Prime Minister allowed himself a sharp breath and a clenched fist. Any more, he feared, would see the Americans' pristine, arrogant, disrespectful response suddenly parted 6 tenfold. 16-fold. Spirits above, treading carefully, was a harder task than he'd thought. Was not leaving duplicity unanswered more improper than expressing righteous anger against it? Putting paid to America's pretensions, if it protected the Empire's good faith from further abuse, certainly allured to him. But he had administered personal appeal to consider. Washington's erratic gestures might simply be a bluff of some sort, the man argued. The closest the Pacific ever has been to certain peace lay just beyond the Empire's fingertips, and will be theirs should it choose to reach out instead of reflexively withdrawing from an impermanent slight. Or so appealed the minister, and his bleeding heart. Was trusting the pacifist judgment of America's grandstanding truly wise? Perhaps peace does, as they said, deserve a chance. Japan will no longer hear more of America's tomfoolery. The ego withdraws. Cold bluff. I don't understand what these options mean. Would this one mean that we give them Hawaii? No. We're not. They keep pushing everything too far. They already have the ports. So are they... The return of Hawaii? No, not at all. Not at all.